Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss a completely mad couple of sections in the Times and the Telegraph, as the Conservatives seem to be deluding themselves that they actually had a decent week. So let's take a look at some of the things they're saying and what the reality is. Actually, first of all, the reality. Multiple pollsters have shown a downward trend in approval for Sunak personally and the Conservatives in general since the election was announced. There has been a corresponding upturn in approval for both Starmer and Labour at the same time. Now, I have said we shouldn't lean too much on polling right now because there are millions of voters who don't normally pay attention to political news who are still not doing so. Wait a few weeks, then see what happens. But the fact of the matter now is that all of the available polling, and I mean all of it consistently, is showing the Tories in a worse position than when Sunak was getting rained on as he announced the election we've all been waiting for. After all, although he looked ridiculous, he was at least doing something popular, calling the election. But it's been downhill from there. In fact, just as I was coming out to record, someone pointed me to a comment from an ITV correspondent saying, on the Conservative Party battle bus and literally driving through a graveyard. It's like, how can you be this bad at things? First of all, Rishi Sunak goes to visit the birthplace of the Titanic, a ridiculous association you would never want to make in an election campaign for a party that is sinking. And now, for a party that we are talking about as maybe being politically dead in a few weeks, They drive anywhere near a cemetery is just mad. It's like they're trying to lose at this point. They're trying to ridicule themselves. How on earth can senior Tories think, oh yeah, things are going quite well for us? You know, you see a Telegraph headline that's been widely shared saying, whisper it, but Rishi Sunak is making an extraordinary comeback. It's like, okay, we know the article is designed to persuade Conservative voters to get back on board. The article uses pseudo-empirical thinking throughout because the hard data says the opposite. Rishi Sunak has been ridiculed by yet another photographer, was caught out by a student as well. Oh, do you want a photo with me? No, I want to ask why you hate young people. Obviously, any politician can be ambushed during a campaign by someone who's less than friendly towards them. It's going to happen. But I cannot think of a single campaign event where Sunak hasn't come away from it having embarrassed himself again. And when you consider that most, not all, but most of his campaign events have been carefully controlled, they've not been out in public. They've been carefully controlled, invitation only type affairs. And he still manages to make an arse of it. You know, but there's a section in a Times article, which is really insane. A belief that the announcements of the last week have been positive when the opposite is demonstrably true, such as the National Service policy. I mean, there are two clues that the National Service announcement has been a disaster. First, it had a large number of even right-wing commentators attacking it. If you cannot even inspire tribal approval, how are you going to persuade non-partisan swing voters to take it seriously? Second, Labour have been using it in their own campaign. Spent quite a lot of money using it in advertising. When your opponents are using your own policies to attack you, someone's messed up. So either Labour think the policy is a disaster, but it's not really, so they're getting it wrong, or the Conservatives think it's a really good announcement when it's not, and they're getting it wrong. And along the same lines of thinking, this same Times article suggests that senior Tories think Angela Rayner's a major weakness for Labour and they want to exploit this. So, and they've already started, you know, the attack ads against Rayner have been coming out. And their argument is, well, she puts off a good chunk of voters. And you go, okay, yeah, sure, yeah. She's like the Marmite that Neil Kinnock talked about. There are those who really like her. And there are who she pisses off. Wouldn't be great as leader where you've got to like appeal to everyone because of that Kinnock factor, but she's not the leader. And so Labour can deploy her strategically. They can send her to the places where she is popular with swing voters and keep her away from the ones that don't appreciate her as much. And another thing to consider, Keir Starmer was launching the battle bus today. It was not in a cemetery, by the way, with Reeves and Rayner. And he even called it Angela's bus. You know, when Labour launched their 6 first steps, Rayner was the first speaker. when they launched the battle bus, Rain a very much central part of it again. The Labour campaign team don't think she's a weak link at all. And who is more likely to be right? The Conservatives, who are getting close to being 25 points behind in the polls, or Labour, who are almost that nearly 25 points ahead in the polls? Which party is most likely to have their finger on the pulse of reality? And that's what's the bottom line for me about a lot of this thinking. Senior Tories think this last week was all right because these announcements, these are good sounding announcements. We can see how they would appeal to our voters. Yeah, the national service, the more tax breaks, the attacking university courses. But what are they basing their conclusions on? Just that, them thinking to themselves, I think this would appeal to some of the voters that are around my way. Because I've not seen any polling evidence which suggests these announcements have done anything positive for the Conservatives. Ordinarily, I could think, well, all I see is general polling published. They've got their own internal targeted polling data, so they could easily know things I don't. But given that Labour think that Sunak's behaviour in the last week has worked in their favour, makes you think one of them is getting their analysis wrong. And in a situation like that, you've got to think it's the side that's staring down the barrel of electoral defeat. Because this election is like anything in life. There will always be problems, but the first step to tackling a problem is to face up to the facts of it. If you delude yourself, you won't apply the right solution. If you really delude yourself, you won't apply any solution because you won't see that there's a problem to solve. And this is what I'm seeing from these Tories now. They've put PR people in charge of everything, but they don't know how to solve problems. That's not what PR exists to do. It exists to put a positive spin on things, to put lipstick on pigs, to pick up the turd by the clean end. That's what they're trained for. And if, as these articles suggest, senior Tories are allowing themselves to think, this last week actually went quite all right, they're not going to improve. After all, why would you change to a better direction if you think you're already on the right track? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.